listening to the Arsenal Therapy Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Arsenal Therapy Podcast. My name is Farhan, also known as Gunner since '96. And as always, joining me here this morning is Adam Keys. Adam, are you ready?
I'm ready, Farhan.
Okay, first question. What cost us that game? VAR or ourselves?
I'm going to say VAR.
Did the midweek game have an impact on our final third play?
Yes.
And finally, do we need to prioritize signing a striker in January?
No.
All right, I hope that's woken you up, Adam. 3 tough questions. I could tell from the hesitation and the pauses in between answering those questions that there were a few tough ones for you to, I guess, rack your brain around before answering. How are you doing after, 12 hours or so of digesting that defeat? And we get to now mull over the entire game with a fresh mind rather than coming on straight after the game and giving our raw reaction, which is sometimes nice, but also it's good to be able to just step back and just think things through properly and then say anything that we won't regret, hopefully. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. I put myself back through it this morning just to give myself that extra torment, but I'm still really disappointed. But at the same time, when you look at the performance we put in, I think it leaves a lot of optimism going forward. It's one of those where you obviously have that, like, wish we could have got the result, but at the same time, you look at the performance and you look at the way we used to lose games in the past, and it's night and day. That was a good performance, and it was one of those where we just didn't do enough, and that happens to every team. We put in a better performance at Villa Park than City did, and that's something that fills me with optimism going forward.
Yeah, it's a big benefit, and obviously, the result doesn't reflect the performance, but ultimately it's going to be a big test now for those boys to pick themselves up as quickly as possible, because the title race, or at least, the top 3 is looking a bit congested with Villa closing that gap. I should also mention, joining us this morning also is Monty, coming back fresh from holiday. He's obviously on the show, on the previous show with me on the Friday, back on the pod. How's it going? You've come back on a not so great note, so and second defeat of the season. It's not something that we're used to, but give me your kind of immediate thoughts and feelings after losing at Villa Park.
First and foremost, I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I think coming after the game, it's a bittersweet. I mean, like Adam said. And this is when I thought, like in the preview, we never got dominated. We dominated them, but it's one we have to look at ourselves and go, we missed our chances. We snuffed them out to have one half chance pretty much, and they took it, and it was poor from Zinni and Ben White collectively for allowing it, and we had many opportunities to win that game. Yes, we can blame VAR as well, but we definitely should have won that game. We had ample opportunities and we didn't take them. So it's a bit bitter, but it was a good performance. It was a good performance, and it's encouraging for the Liverpool game coming up. If we can play like that, but actually just be more clinical, I think we'll be all right. So it's bitter right now, but we've got a whole season ahead of us. So many more games coming in.
Yep. That Liverpool game is huge now. Makes up for a really, really tasty game of football for the neutral. For us Arsenal fans, it's another nervous occasion, hopefully one that we live up to. Before we start, I don't know, I mean, you guys can decide whether we do this now at the end of the show. I don't know, maybe the listeners might prefer for us to end the show by talking about the podcast itself. Spotify released their Wrapped, at the end of the year, where they give you all of your kind of analytics and whatnot. I don't know how interested the guys will be listening, but I think for us it's a really interesting time just to see how far we've grown, and how many listeners we have, etc., etc. Maybe I'll just leave this at the end, but I'm quite excited to kind of find out what's been happening with us. I guess on a positive note, I'd like to think that we've helped many Arsenal fans to listen to some voices of reason, which again, put that in quotation marks, shall I? It's nice to have obviously been sharing the mic with you guys and being able to express ourselves. First and foremost, I think this is a really good opportunity for us to be able to just give ourselves some Arsenal therapy, and then the listeners get to benefit from that. It's been nice to connect with so many fans as well, and hopefully, with every defeat that we face, and we can only hope that we face minimal defeat this season, so that we can lift the Premier League title. But moments like this, we can pick each other up and look forward and keep marching on. So, having said that, let's discuss the starting lineup. Me and Monty discussed it briefly on the Friday preview show, and once again, Monty, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. It was, to be fair, they said the only one that was maybe and ahhing was potentially Trossard or Havertz. Looking at it, I mean, I texted you guys before the game. I said this is a strong enough lineup to win the game. I was pretty confident going into it, and I mean, it showed in the performance. I mean, we were by far the better team, and as we saw, and Adam said earlier, City got dominated in their game against them. They lost that midfield battle completely. It was a complete polar opposite for us. We kept winning those 50-50s. We kept the ball in the final third. We were very sharp as well off the bat. The only thing we did, we had that one lapse of judgment with on the 7th minute with Zinni getting pulled out and Ben White being slow, and they managed to call it back. But no, the lineup was good. I liked it. I don't think there could have been any better one. Looking at it, I don't think we could have done anything any different, personally. So I had high hopes coming into the game. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, it definitely was a strong starting lineup, and I know Adam. I don't know whether you're one for analysing starting lineups in depth, but this starting lineup, especially having played the midweek game against Luton and the manner that we won it, I for one, I think was expecting maybe a couple of changes, only to make sure the rotation was done in a way where we had fresh legs, but also we're able to maximise our efficiency on the pitch. How did you think we were going to line up going into this game?
I think it was one of those, a bit like what Monty said, the only question was really whether Jorginho and Trossard would have come in. But when you look at the depth of the team right now, we've got a lot of injuries. It's right across the board in the Premier League. We've seen more injuries this weekend. And I think the midweek game will have a part to play in this and how we line up as well. So the fact that we can rotate then. But I was happy with the lineup. I think the club will have looked at it and thought, how fit are all these players? There's probably minimal training done during the week. It's probably like very light ball work, and it's more making sure everyone's in the right place to play the game. And we didn't look, physicality wasn't the problem yesterday. We looked good. We looked like we were ready to go from the off. So I was very happy with the team. I thought, for me, having Kai Havertz in the team was what we needed, which is that dual winner in the middle of the park, the player that we know how good he is off the ball. Put Declan Rice beside him, and I thought it was the team to win the game. So I was happy with it, and I wasn't too bothered about rotation because I think there's opportunities coming up for that. So yeah, all in all, happy with how we lined up.
Okay, cool. So let's delve into the game then. A very, very quick start. Obviously, we conceded a goal in the first 10 minutes. Before that, though, I should mention that a certain somebody was sidelined after receiving a yellow card for celebrating against Luton. Adam, big miss to not have Arteta there. Did you realise that we were going to be without him before the game? Because I, for one, was quite surprised to see him going into the director's box.
Yeah. Well, we knew on Wednesday night or Tuesday night after the Luton game that it happened. So all that, whilst we were recording the pod after that game, I knew it was the case, and there's been a lot made of it this week. But yeah, it was one of those. I always wonder how big of an impact it actually has, because we see teams go out and win without their coach on the line, and it's obviously a different approach to a game, and I think Arteta is so involved, but you never fully know the impact, because I mean, yesterday everything went as you would expect it to be if Arteta was on the line. So it's one of those. It's obviously disappointing not to have him there. I think the yellow card as well, excessive celebrating. Like, what is that? Like, really, when you kind of unpick that, it's like, what is excessive celebrating? And I think that's the frustrating thing here. He's got a yellow card for something that it does feel like he's being targeted a bit. And the Arsenal Vision podcast discussed this very well. It was Tim Stillman unpicked it, and he was like, well, what about players? Do they celebrate excessively? Do managers? And it's like, he said that he feels like Klopp's being targeted with 12:30 kickoffs because he keeps complaining. Arteta's being targeted by referees because he's complaining. And it feels like anyone that speaks out right now is being hit with something. And I'm very reluctant to buy into conspiracy theories around kind of football and so on. But the more these things keep happening, the more you think there is something there, and people are trying to put their foot down and trying to get people to stop speaking out and trying to create robots out of footballers and managers. So all the emotions just being taken out of the game. And if we're at the point where you can't celebrate a last minute, like literally last second winner in a game where you win 4-3, what is football anymore? It's beyond a joke now.
Well, this is it, really, isn't it? You're denying human beings their natural instinctiveness to behave how, at the time, at the moment. It's not as if he's behaved in a way which is causing anyone any harm. It's the beauty of the game. It's why we watch it. It's to feel those feelings, and to receive a yellow card. It's just absurd, and it just goes to show really how delusional everything's become in football, with the rules side of things. We'll touch on what happened at the end of the game with the disallowed goal, but again, a pure example of just the people ruling the game, not ruling it in a way which I guess befits the rules. I mean, rules are there to be followed, sure, but in certain cases, a critical thinker needs to stand up and say, well, hold on a minute. Yes, the rule says X, Y, and Z, but in certain situations, I don't know. Everything's so black and white. It's just, and what really annoys me is that this season, as well as last season, it's been dominated by discussions about refereeing, discussions about rules, rather than the football that's being played on the pitch, rather than individual talents, rather than tactical genius. Moves from managers like, whether it be Arteta, whether it be whoever else. Monty, just very quickly before we go into the game, give us your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think the reffing, I mean, Jared Gillett didn't have the best game. I mean, the thing that annoys me the most, right, and I think all we want is consistency within the game. I was watching the Liverpool Crystal Palace game, and the exact same incident that happened to Gabriel Jesus was given as a penalty 2 minutes after the fact that it happened. So they called back the game 2 minutes after it played, tracked all the way back, VAR stepped in and went, look, have a look at this, blah, blah, blah. Same contact. Kicked him underneath the leg, clicked through him to clear the ball. Yet we didn't receive that. Another one is the fact that how Jared Gillett is a Liverpool fan, and he's been allowed to actually ref that game is crazy, because obviously every ref has to say what club they support, so they don't actually manage them. And yeah, he's a Liverpool fan, so not sure why that was allowed. Anyway, apart from the ref thing, I still think we should have won. I'm not going to sit here and blame the refs for us losing. They didn't help, especially with the Kai Havertz goal. I don't get how. I think we all saw it. It hits Matty Cash's arm first, but yet Kai Havertz gets punished for it. Make that just tell me how that makes sense. How does that make sense? And then how do we get punished for something that they did first? And then on top of that, his arm, if Matty Cash didn't hit it with his arm, it would have gone in. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just lack of consistency. But I don't want to sort of ring up the old, it's the refs against us FC sort of lane. But it does seem like there is a lack of consistency. That's the main thing across the league. And that's something that needs to be sorted out immediately, really. They need to have a long, hard discussion with themselves and just, they just need to sort it out. And it's annoying because we should, like you said, we should be talking about the football. We should talking about the manager's tactics. We should talk about players, individual talents. But instead we're here talking about reffing decisions, lack of quality throughout it, and the consistency throughout. And it's just getting very repetitive in a game that shouldn't really be plagued with reffing issues. Do you know what I mean? This is the Premier League. We're supposed to have the best quality. It's the most watched league in the world, so we need to have the best, but we don't. And it's quite startling. Whereas if you go to like Germany, they have assisted offsides, they have their VAR seems to be quite good. They do make some errors, but German refereeing as a whole is pretty good. So we need to sort of take some note from other leagues, I think.
Okay, well, putting that aside, there was a very good game of football on, and it started off with, again, all-out attack from, I think, both sides. Villa playing quite high, winning a corner in the opening minute. Really bright start from them, but also from us as well. Martinelli dribbling down the left-hand side, a common theme. But I noticed, Adam, quite early on that there was some reluctancy at the back, maybe some nerves. Ben White showing it very early on with a missed kick. Raya showing it by coming out to claim a long ball unconvincingly and then dropping it. Villa, they were moving the ball around in the middle of our half quite quickly, and we weren't pressing as aggressively. I imagine that this would have been a tactical move to not press them so aggressively because they're so good at moving the ball around, but also they're so quick at getting it through the channels. So what did you think of Arsenal's tentative start, I guess, especially from the back?
I think it was, you summed it up quite well there with both sides started well because Villa are a really good side. They're not just a team that are in form, they're a side that have really good players. So if you look at that midfield, Kamara, McGinn, Tielemans, and so on, those players, Douglas Luiz, they could all play for teams right at the top of the league. McGinn's one of those unconventional players where he's really stiff, but he's got really good feet. And he looks awkward, but actually he's a really effective player at doing pretty much everything around the pitch. He moves well, he passes well, he shoots. All the things that he does are kind of what you want in a midfielder. But I think sometimes you look at it and you think, actually, they're a really good side. I think probably there's a mix of the tactical side with the pressing and also the factor of both teams played midweek. So there's probably an element of playing yourself into the game as well because of you don't want to overexert yourself too early. So that probably had a factor, but I thought overall we started well. We had the chance down the left. Martinelli crossed it in. Saka had a pretty loose touch by Saka's standards. It's not an easy one to control because it's a wet pitch. It's coming in at a lot of pace, and he is stretching slightly. But I think again with Saka, it's those standards that we expect. We just expect him to kill that ball, and it's one of those. I'm not sure what he's trying to do exactly, but you just need to kind of block it and guide it towards goal with that because there's so much pace on the cross. It's like if you get that directed towards goal, it makes at least a good save from the keeper. So that was an example of how well we started. And then the Villa goal obviously came so early that it just lifted an already really kind of jubilant crowd and added to the extra pressure that we knew that we were going to get. They're just living in Wonderland at the minute. Their fans are absolutely loving everything they're doing. They're playing great football. They're winning games. They're not conceding a lot of goals, and they are very much the kind of informed team in the league. But one of the things I've talked about with Villa is they've got so much balance the whole way across the field. If you look from their goalkeeper right through to the forward, every player is kind of who you would pick in that position. It's very much like the right fit for each role. And They've recruited really well over the last 2 years. They are utilizing players properly, and kind of everything about them is just kind of clicked into place because of good recruitment, and Emery's tactics have been very good this season. So we saw that early on in the game, and it started well for both sides, but their goal came so early, and even their goal itself, it's one of those when you watch it back, you're trying to find where the mistake is, but it's also one of those that you look at and you think that's just a really good goal. So Bailey does really well. The pass back is perfect. McGinn's spin perfect again, and he places it beyond Raya. So it's one of those, I'm not sure if there is a deflection. It's like different angles look like there could be, but it's just one of those that you look at and you think, right, pick ourselves back up, get on with it. And we kind of did that, but just couldn't get that goal.
Yeah, good summary of that opening 10 minutes. The goal definitely, I guess, woke things up a little bit for us. It was a little bit of a blessing in disguise because I felt like up until then we were a little bit unsure of ourselves, unconvincing, especially in our defensive shape, in the body language, giving loose balls away, not having, longer spells of possession. Because I felt like in this game in particular, we needed to kill or get the sting out of the game by just slowing things down and playing it at our pace. The one game where you want Arsenal to build up slow and steady, it's the opposite. So, Monty, what was your assessment of that opening 10 minutes and also the goal? Adam pointed out that he doesn't think there was anyone in particular to blame, but what could have been done maybe to, avoid getting in that situation? Because I felt like personally we were opened up far too easily. I felt like that combination of passing was really nice and it was really well worked by Villa, but we were too naive in getting sucked into that run of play. That's what I think. What do you think?
No, definitely. I think Adam Zoy did quite a good summary of the first 10 minutes. It was like a tug of war at first. Villa tried to come out like they did against City, which was electric fire straight on it. And I think Unai Emery on it because we understand his tactics. He kind of understood that he probably wasn't going to dominate here just because he looked at that midfield that we have, and he went, right, we need to get on the score sheet early. If we can cause that pressure, and in this crowd, it's gonna lift them. So they kind of went for the smash and grab. And initially, I thought we were soaking it up quite well because they came out quick. We handled it well, and we looked to break straight away. I mean, the Martinelli to Saka cross ball stood out to me. Saka had a very, very unfortunate not to get it down, and I think Adam hit it spot on. Is we expect such high quality from a player such as Saka that he wasn't able to bring it down. So for us, it was a shock. But when you look at it, it was actually quite a difficult ball to get. And then on top of that, we were constantly probing. And then the goal that we received was purely down to just being pulled out of position. I think Zinni gets pulled way too far inside. So I'm not sure who put the ball in for him. I think maybe Leon Bailey. I can't quite remember. Yeah. He basically had loads of space because Zinni got pulled inside where he was doing an inverted role. But because Villa went north-south very quickly, which is what we lacked throughout the whole game, they were able to expose that and almost did what they did against City, which is they were highlighting was when Walker comes forward, they fill in behind him, and they did it with John McGinn and Lewis Digne, and they were able to do the German cross to Watkins, which was working fine for them. We couldn't quite do it with us because you're not going to get a German cross against Gabriel Saliba. But they were basically just pinning it. They got it quickly, broke off, and then whipped it inside. And Ben White, although he actually tracked the run very well from John McGinn, you see him early, he comes back and he tracks it. What he does is he when he stops, he gets a little bit flat-footed, and he gets an extra half a yard of space away from him. And John McGinn's able to get that ball, turn and hit it. And Ben White was just very unfortunate not to chase it down. But he actually tracked the run, so he should have, because he tracked the run and he was there, he should have been closer. But it was quite harsh. It'd be harsh to pin it on them. But they were the two errors that happened that caused that goal. If Sydney's able to push out wide enough, the ball would never have been delivered. And if Ben White wasn't so flat-footed and stayed on his knees, I think McGinn wouldn't have been out the space to get the shot off. And Raya was obviously very close to getting the save as well. And it was just unfortunate. But after the goal, I feel like we reacted really well. To be honest, I mean, we went 1-0 down. It was a complete shock. They had a complete half chance, and we seemed to really want to dominate and take the ball game to them. We kept the ball. We were winning all the 50-50s, unlike the City game where they were just getting dominated in the midfield. We were winning those duels. We were pressing them high. We kept the ball in the final third for the majority of the first half. And we kept probing. We just kept probing, but we just lacked that little bit of quality, that bit of calmness. We needed like just a calm approach from a striker, just to take the ball down, take it on himself to really push into the box and open up chances and have that calm. We looked very frantic. We looked great going up until we got to the box. We looked like we were running out of ideas, which is really frustrating. And Aston Villa did very well at exposing the offsides as well, which we were too slow on. We weren't going north-south quick enough, and that's how Villa got their goal in the first place. I think they've done 78 offsides this season, which is almost double to what the team that came second. So we needed to be quicker. We just needed to be quicker and push behind them.
Yeah. Quick question. What the hell is a German cross?
German cross. So it's basically when you've got a midfielder and you have your centre midfielder, they push up. So they both push up. Centre midfielder rolls it out, and then the centre midfielder will basically add an extra body. And then what you do is you ping the ball from the far wing in between the fullback and centre back. So basically, you use them spread out. So you have your striker on the centre back, and you'll have the midfielder will go onto the fullback, and it basically creates a one-on-one situation. And then you just have to ping to it goes to, and they were nailing it. They were literally you were all doing it to Watkins all day. They didn't get every single one, but there were chances. There were chances from there. It's a tap tactic. They did it a lot. I think it was during the 80s. That's why it's called German cross.
There you go, listeners. We've just learned something new. I don't know about you guys, but I certainly learned something new. Adam,
yeah, I'd never heard
just
of it.
on Raya very quickly. I don't want to be cynical, and I don't want to ask any questions that are gonna, get people to scoff. Maybe they will, but David Raya for that goal, how much better could he have done? I know it was a really difficult situation. I just thought when I was watching back that goal, this is my thought. I'm just saying what I thought. I don't know. Maybe it's ridiculous, but in slow motion, and obviously things look different in slow motion. But I was thinking in the back of my head, had Aaron Ramsdale been in there, because he's so good instinctively, he has such good reactions, could he have potentially got a hand to it? Because a shot does go kind of in between his head and his arm. Again, me being really harsh, this whole Ramsdale Raya debate has obviously inflated everything unfairly. So, yeah, what do you think?
There's nothing Raya can do about that. Raya had a good game yesterday, and it's one of those, like, if it wasn't for the soap opera Arteta has created, we wouldn't be discussing this. And I've been really reluctant to share the comps of Ramsdale and all his mistakes over the last couple of years, because I don't want to buy into that nonsense. But for every top save Ramsdale's made, he's also had a lot that have gone past him far too easily. I think, look, it's one of those, it's inside the 6-yard box. McGinn spins really well. He connects perfectly with the ball. As Monty was talking about it, I went back and watched the goal again from start to finish. That ball, nearly every Villa player touches the ball in the build-up. They work that so well, and it's one of those, we probably should have committed a foul much earlier in the build-up and just stopped the play. But look, for Raya, there's nothing he can do about that. I think it's one of those, again, because of what Arteta's created with this situation, everything's going to be, well, could Ramsdale have done better there? Would Ramsdale have stopped that? If Raya put something out of touch, would Ramsdale have kept that in play? Would Ramsdale have made a better decision there? And it's always that the grass is always greener. And last season, if that happened, we wouldn't even be discussing Ramsdale's part in that goal. It's one of those, there's players that can do better. I think Zinchenko could have got in closer and so on. But ultimately, I think it's a good goal. And it's one of those, if we scored that goal, we would be talking about how many passes, the level of build-up, and how good of a finish it was from Jesus, Saka, whoever scored it. So I think you have to give Villa credit. And They, as I said, they're not just a team in form. They are a really, really good side with real quality players. I think on the whole, if you look at the quality of their side, they're probably better than Spurs. They're probably better than Newcastle. And they've just got balance the whole way across the team. And that goal kind of summed it up, because everyone in their team can play. So they looked at ease moving the ball through the pitch. And that's something that hasn't happened. A lot of the times when we've conceded goals like that, it's been a case of it's been scrappy. Players have been sucked in, individual mistakes. That was a good team scoring a very good goal against us because they can play football. So there are times for every mistake and everything we want to dissect. Sometimes you have to look at the opposition and think, fair play, lads. That's very, very good football.
Okay, well, look, as Monty mentioned, straight after we conceded, we picked it up. Odegaard pushing everyone forward. So far, I don't know what it was. We were just really reluctant to press from the front. Even Jesus just looked a bit flat off the ball. But we were generating chances, and what makes me really cross is when we get chances in the way that we did, when we're intercepting balls inside Villa's half in dangerous areas, as we did, early on. Havertz intercepting the ball, plays it out wide to Saka, which completely slows down the momentum of the move. And Saka's shot being blocked. What makes me really cross is that when you do such good work to first retrieve the ball, intercept it, you do all the hard work to get yourself there, and then just fluff it in the last second. Monty, why was it the case that Arsenal were being able to create so many good opportunities, but in that final moment where you either needed to make the right pass or you needed to get the right what's the word I'm looking for? The right contact with the ball, or to cut in, or just that final bit of quality? Why was that missing?
Honestly, I don't know. I've made a tweet throughout the game, and it just seemed like we weren't as sharp. And honestly, I think a bit of it was down to Mikel not being on the touchline. I think he just has quite a reassuring presence because he's so active during the game. Like he's able to react to the game and act and give you live instructions. That the team sort of missed that, so they looked at time a little bit not doubtful. We didn't seem doubtful in the way we approached. We seemed very clear in the way that we approached, but they sort of lacked that bit of confidence. And like for the Odegaard chance, for instance, when he gets the ball right in the middle of the goal, pretty much every goal he scored this season, he has gone across the keeper. Like that's Martin Odegaard. He gets in a really good position and goes across the keeper, bottom low and to the right, and it goes in. And for some reason, he tried to go like in front of the keeper. And this is Emi Martinez, who's probably one of the best at getting, like, when it comes to getting down low to the floor, he's probably one of the best at it. I can remember many a save of Martinez stretching that like big forearm out, getting balls that just seem like they're going to go in. So I just think it was a lapse of judgment. And the way that we were able to create, we was just purely because of our play. We've been doing it all season, I wasn't surprised. I remember I said to you in the preview show, Farhan, I genuinely thought we were going to win this game. We were well set up to do so, and we just lacked it. I don't know. Something seemed off. Maybe it was the atmosphere. Villa Park was electric. They scored that early goal, so it was even more. Whereas if it was the other way around, it would silence them a little bit. It would activate our fans, and it might have been a completely different game. And then one that was a little bit later was that Jesus bad touch. I mean, Jesus probably has one of the best first touches I've seen in a long time. And the one time he decides to throw a bad touch was when he receives the most perfect splitting ball from Saka in between two centre-backs that would have laid him on for a ridiculous goal. And he has a bad touch. It just seemed like it wasn't our day that day, yesterday. And there's nothing really else that we can really say, to be honest. I don't think it was a tactical mishap. I don't think it was a personnel issue. I just think it was purely down to it's football. People make errors, and it's just it was a lapse of concentration. Maybe he was too eager to get the ball round, and he wasn't able to touch it down. Didn't keep his eye on the ball. That can happen, and you can sort of get ahead of yourself. And as it's coming to you, you look at the goal, and then that little half second can change the contact of the ball. So yeah, I just thought, honestly, I think the biggest reason was because Arteta wasn't on the sideline, because he's so animated. He even if he doesn't necessarily do too much, he gives you reassurance because he gives you live information. He'll be like, right, you need to shift here. You've got a player coming over you here, so you need to make sure you're marking when he comes across. You need to see this. Like he's like a computer, whereas it's quite hard for him to relay that to Albert and then Albert to bring that to them. So yeah, there were multiple factors, but I think the main one was just purely the gaffer not being on the sideline there, and it kind of gave their safety blanket. It took their safety blanket off them.
Adam, Monty just touched on the fact that there are certain players like Jesus who were just not at the races, touches not being there. He wasn't the only one. I think everyone on the pitch had really bad moments. Like I mentioned at the beginning, Ben White with a poor touch, Declan Rice misplacing passes, Martinelli, Saka as well, not making good touches. I think the only real consistent performer was, funny to say, it was Havertz. I think Havertz had quite a consistent performance, and he was the one actually making things tick in the middle of the pitch in advanced positions. But having said that, everything still looked very predictable, especially on the edge of the box when we are usually so good at opening teams up, so good at moving pieces around so that we can open spaces up. Everything just felt like it was just so rehearsed, and Villa were just able to read everything. So what do you put it down to? Is it a case that we were just, as Monty said, maybe, Arteta not being there affected us, or was there something a little bit more deeper? Because it affected everyone. It wasn't one or two players.
Yeah, I think Monty's summed it up quite well. The likes of Jesus, who's always got a great first touch, loose touches there. The big one for me, I'm really worried about Ben White's form, but the big one yesterday for me that made me think this might not be our day was Saliba. So I thought Saliba was really poor in the first half, and it's the first time this season that I've looked at him and thought, like, what's going on here? At one point, he had his hand up apologising to his teammate, which I don't remember, other than the Leicester game when he scored that own goal, Saliba having to do that. So, which again shows we've had years of watching centre-backs apologising to their teammates because they're shit. With Saliba, it's just, you don't expect any of those errors. So it's like, there was one point, he got the ball under no pressure and he passed it back to Raya and put it out for a corner. And we saw early on, Villa had so many players on Raya. They were crowding that 6-yard area. They were just, had all their big men in. And that's the effect of the Luton game, where teams will target you for whatever weakness they perceive. And Raya's catching numbers are really, really high. But at the same time, he is a keeper just under 6 foot. He's not the biggest. And when you saw him in the box yesterday, he looked small. And so there were so many moments like that where it was like Saliba doing that. There was a couple of times Watkins got the better of him and he just looked off his game. And I think a lot of our passing, for example, starts off with Saliba and those small areas. But the touch was the big one that I noticed, where Saka had a couple of touches where his first touch wasn't great, and then his second touch, he still came out with the ball because it's Saka. He's an absolute tank, and he can just hold players off. But it was that first touch not being quite as crisp as we usually see. Even the big one as well, along with Saliba, was Martinelli. Martinelli has the best first touch in our squad. He can just bring a ball down with ease, no matter where he is on the park. And he just makes it look so easily. Like, it's so graceful the way he brings a ball down. Jesus is slightly different in that he's got a great first touch, but it's slightly more scrappy and street football. But Martinelli is just so graceful. And there were a couple of times where the ball flew off his foot or his touch was going quite a bit ahead of him. Just the things that you don't normally see. And again, part of that comes down to when you're playing against a really good team and you're under pressure, overthinking and the opposition putting you under pressure. So it's one of those, when you look at the numbers throughout the game, we had more of the ball, we had more shots, we had more passes, we had everything is in our favour. But it's important to remember how well Aston Villa played when they got the ball. They moved it well, they closed us down well, and all of those things. It's like, if you're under no pressure and you mess up your first touch, it's your fault. But quite often when a player messes up their touch, it's because of pressure from a defender. And I just felt that Villa were doing that really well. Two centre-backs had a good game. I mean, I really like Pau Torres. I think he's just got a wand of a left foot. But it was that pressure that was stopping us from really ticking. And when you say about being predictable, again, I felt like that was a very organised side. And, you know, whenever teams play against us and you're looking at them and you're thinking they're not going to score because we're so well organised, I kind of thought that with Villa yesterday. And there haven't been many times this season where I've thought that. But then at the same time, we had loads of chances in the first half. And I thought we played in a different way. We were playing balls over the top. Zinchenko was just pinging them over the top time and time again, trying to beat that high line. And honestly, in the first half, I just felt like this is a matter of time until we score, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Adam, I feel like you're giving Villa a bit too much credit because, you know, in the last 15 minutes of the first half, we had 4 very big chances to level the scoreline. The first one coming from, you know, an interception. Again, the third time that we had intercepted them deep inside of their half, but couldn't do anything with it. Rice decided to pass it into Saka rather than having a shot himself. Saka ends up having a shot after we win it back. There was the Odegaard shot as well, which goes inches wide. Again, lovely play between Saka and White down the right-hand side. Let's not forget, you know, the Martinelli one-on-one with Martinez. He put in behind brilliantly by Gabriel. And as you mentioned, there was there was a theme, you know, trying to get in behind because they were playing such a high line. We were able to beat that high line actually on relatively quite well on quite a few occasions. Again, just last ditch defending. Martinez did really well to recover. And then the final one, best, I think one of the best chances, in my opinion anyway. Really nice move from Arsenal. Martinelli wins the ball from Konsa, plays it into Havertz, who races into the box, squares it to Jesus, who lays it off really nicely to Odegaard. Does really well, Odegaard, to get that first touch. But, you know, we're all screaming at the TV screen for him to take a shot just before he decides to, you know, get it onto his left. And maybe this is something to discuss. Maybe one of the issues that we're having right now is that players are, because they're so one-footed, some of these players, like Odegaard, for instance. One of the biggest problems that I had with him last season was that he would always turn to his left foot, never take it on his right foot. And it was a brilliant save from Martinez from that particular moment, Monty, where he guessed the right way. And, you know, if he was a little bit more unpredictable, if he was able to take it on his right foot, maybe Martinez doesn't guess the right way. But yeah, as Adam mentioned, a number of chances in the last 15 minutes. Are you expecting Arsenal to be level going into the half-time?
To be honest, yeah, I think we had enough opportunities to go level. 100%. I was, like Adam said, in the last 10 minutes, I was thinking we could probably get a goal here because we reacted so well to going down in the first place and really took the game to them. And especially with that Odegaard shot. And even Martinelli, who just got offside like maybe 2-3 minutes earlier, and was able to tap it over. And it didn't go in, but it went across the goal. And I was thinking, oh, that should have probably gone in. And it just seemed like one of those days. After that Martin Odegaard shot, I was thinking, it's just going to be one of those days, isn't it? And it was just uncharacteristic from him as well. Very uncharacteristic. Like you said, he went to the left side and he was so reliant on his left foot. And I think again, I think it was the second half, the start of the second half, we had another opportunity and he should have just taken it with his right. And then he, again, waited way too long, took up the left, players came back, players got, Martinez got to it as well. I personally believe we should have gone into their 1-1. We should have took the opportunity, but we didn't, because it was a absolute belter of an opportunity, a belter of a chance. And consider, I think our XG at the half time was Aston Villa were on like 0.6, 0.61, and we were like 1.2, and we didn't score. And Aston Villa scored their half chance. So yeah, we should have gone in. I'm assuming Arteta would have been like pretty much more or less of the same, just fix up. And like I said earlier, I think it was we weren't as sharp because we were late to reacting to developments on the field. on the pitch in terms of, I don't know, if Martinelli was wide open on a run, Arteta's normally shouting on the pitch like, "Vamos, vamos, vamos," like pointing. He's like, "Go, go, 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 go," and he can see it actively and react real time. We weren't able to do that. We just weren't able to do that, and yeah.
Well, that sound could only mean one thing. We have arrived at the halfway point of the show where I'll be taking you guys into the second half. But before we do that, let's get our one-word summary from that first half. Starting with you, Adam, what one word would you describe that first half?
Frustrating.
Nice. Monty?
I was going to use the exact same word, frustrating, but I'll go with... I think that's perfect. Well, I think that's the perfect word. It was just frustrating.
Okay, and I'm going to go with wasteful, because I feel like we had too many chances in that first half. Anyway, going into the second half, it was almost a continuation of how we left off in the first half. Opening minute of the second half, really applying the pressure. Really good pressure as well on Aston Villa. First, Jesus in the box with a strong penalty claim, with Luiz kicking his leg, and then a ball goes across the face of goal for Saka, who completely misses the ball. So, Adam, starting off on the front foot, strong penalty claim. Do you think we should have been given a penalty early on in the second half?
Sorry, did you say the Jesus one?
Yes.
Yeah, Monty summed it up right at the beginning of the pod with the Liverpool game, which I also watched, and it was one of those. Man, I don't know the rules of the game anymore. It's got to the point where throughout the game, I was just like, I have no idea what's going on here. The Liverpool game, look, the true decisions for the penalties in the Liverpool game, you look at the first penalty that was overturned, and it's watched 31 times to see if there's a foul outside the box and in the build-up to the goal. Exactly the same kind of foul that we had at Old Trafford last year where the Martinelli goal was ruled out. And again, if something takes that many times to review it, it is not clear and obvious. The rule is meant to be clear and obvious. It's not, let's put this onto ultra slow motion, rewatch it. But Jesus is scooped because he's like kicked from under his calf. It's one of those, it's a foul, it's a penalty, but it's just left me really apathetic towards refereeing because I don't feel I'm getting the same anger towards refereeing decisions as I was, because I just feel that the standard of officiating is so poor that I'm just tired of complaining. And it's one of those, again, I think had we have taken one of those chances in the first half, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because against Luton, we had a stonewall penalty for Gabriel not given, which we discussed a bit on the pod, but we didn't go into a lot of detail in. But again, it's an example of just not getting decisions. And it's not even just us. I look at, again, the Liverpool game, and Jordan Ayew's been sent off for 2 really soft yellow cards, but in the same light, he made 2 fouls against us, and one of them was the foul that he got a second yellow for yesterday. He made a worse one against us, and he didn't get a second yellow for that. And in the same game, Tomiyasu got sent off for next to nothing, time wasting, and barely touching Ayew. So I look at it and think, right, that's the same ground and similar, like, kind of what he blocked a free kick. So take that as your time wasting yellow card, and take the second one as a kind of breaking up an attack, a professional foul, whatever you want to call it. 2 yellows, but at the same time, he didn't get those yellows against us. Liverpool have benefited from that. The game completely changed after that moment. The decisions went in Liverpool's favour yesterday. The penalty for Mateta was a penalty. It was the right decision. But again, that took 1 minute and 45 seconds before play stopped and it was reviewed by VAR. The ref ran over to the screen. With the Jesus one, there just seemed to be a quick check. It moved on. And it's one of those, like, what are the rules of refereeing now? What is a penalty? What's not? And it's not even we're comparing instances 6 months apart. We're looking at things 3 hours apart and thinking, right, that was a penalty then, but it's not a penalty at 6:30 in a game. It's just completely ridiculous that we are at the point where refereeing standards are so inconsistent that it feels like that takes up so much of the airtime every week. And I think the fact, I've said this before, the fact that Ref Watch is one of the most watched things on Sky Sports is really, really worrying. And I think Sky Sports are really playing into this farce that is refereeing right now, because they are getting so many clicks, so much attention, so much viewership off the back of poor refereeing that it's benefiting them. And look, I'm just lost for words with referees right now.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about it too much at the beginning because I felt like listeners would be raising their eyebrows, rolling their eyes. Oh, here we go again, talking about referees. But it is what it is. I would love to be able to sit here and talk about a game of football. I would love to be able to scrutinize players, managers, moments. But when big decisions go against us, like it did against Crystal Palace, which I thought was criminal, it changed the game on its head. And this is what I mean when I talk about being able to read the game from a different lens, not being so black and white. Rules are there, I think anyway. Rules are there to be able to dictate what you can and cannot do to a certain extent. There needs to be a spectrum, right? Especially when games are being managed by human beings. Interpretations are very important. And when a referee is managing a game, he needs to be able to read the situation before making such a rash decision. Like giving a yellow card, or like giving that second yellow card to Ayew, who I felt like should have been given a final warning. The referee should have spoken to him and said, look, this is it. Next one, you're off. Similarly, against, last week with Gabriel in the box, has to be a penalty. This week, Jesus in the box has to be a penalty. Whether it's soft, whether it's not, the fact of the matter is that part of that portion of play was broken up by whoever it was that kicked Jesus, who was in a position where he could have created a goal scoring opportunity. If it had been outside of the box, we could be having a different conversation. Fine, we can let that go for the benefit of making the game flow better. And these are the kind of critical thinking that we need to start having in football. It can't be so black and white. We need to be able to read in between the line. We need to start thinking, well, what's better for the game? Not as a whole, but this game. Arsenal versus Aston Villa. If I make this particular decision, is it going to be benefiting this game? Whilst also still sticking with the rules. I don't know. I don't know where we go from here. Yeah.
Sorry, you made a good point there about decisions being whether it's soft or not. The reality is whether it's soft or not doesn't matter. If it's a foul, it's a foul, and we've been trained to think that, oh, that's a soft one. It's like, it's still a foul. It doesn't matter if you go through a man, absolutely clatter them, or you commit a soft challenge. We've said many times before, if someone's running at full pelt, the slightest touch completely undoes your balance. And sometimes when you're expecting contact, a more firm challenge actually does less damage. But it's one of those, the consistencies have to be there. Whether it's soft, whether it's like a blatant foul, it's still a foul. And this whole narrative about things being soft needs to change.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I made that point is because during certain periods of the game, certain moments, certain areas, decisions won't be the same. They can't be the same, because if they're the same, then we end up having these discussions of, why in this situation did this happen and in this situation that happened. A handball is a handball. So if a handball is played in the middle of the pitch, should the game be stopped?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's these types of questions. It's quite like philosophical.
Well, one thing I'm liking, I don't know if any of you read about it. Have you read about the new Adidas ball that's coming out in for the Euros? Have you
No.
heard about it at all? So basically, and they're gonna. Well, the only annoying thing is obviously the Premier League is sponsored by Nike in terms of the football, and it's really annoying because their technology is absolutely dross when it comes to football. So if you look at the Adidas ball for Euros, they've actually got now. It's going to be a tiny little microchip. It's like a little It's like a layout that basically can detect any form of touch, whether it's your foot, chest, arm, doesn't matter. And what it will do, they're going to pair it up with a video, assistant referee. So basically, there will be no more. Did it touch his arm? Did it touch his arm? The ball will tell you there's a touch. Here's the video evidence of where it touched. It won't tell you where. It won't say that it touched his hand, its leg. It just says the ball has been touched. So what they'll do is they'll be able to pair it with a video and be like, right, it's been touched here. Where is it on his body? Do you know what I mean? So that's something that they need to sort of bring in, because that handball one, and I'm sure we'll go into it, the conversation. The fact that it touches Matty Cash first, and yet he doesn't get a penalty. We don't get a penalty for that when he literally stopped the ball going into the goal. But Kai Havertz gets a handball because it grazed his arm when it was inside his body before it touches his right foot. Is crazy. It's crazy. And I think that would have been stopped with that technology.
Right, let's continue talking about the second half. As I mentioned, Monty, strong press continues, playing the ball, especially down the left-hand side. I felt like Martinelli was managing to find space on that left-hand side, reading the passes really well, reading the timing of his runs really well, getting in behind on a couple of occasions, but he was unable to create any clear-cut chances. And so what we saw in that second half was a number of different set pieces that could have went our way. We won a free kick on the edge of Villa's box on the left-hand side.
Oh God, that's awful.
It was a nice idea by Saka and Odegaard, but it didn't connect well. Wasteful opportunity. Then there was a corner that comes in front post. It's a mistake between Martinez and Watkins. Martinez palms the ball onto Watkins, saved off the post somehow. But we're getting closer. We're getting really, really close. And then we get to I think this is the Odegaard chance, isn't it? Where Havertz is in behind after Zinchenko puts him in brilliantly, plays the ball across the face of goal, and the shot goes wide. And then we also get to Saka's offside goal, which looked on for me, but VAR, I don't even know if it was checked by VAR. No lines were drawn, but it was offside.
You guys about that.
The lineman just
I pulled it up.
Is it right now with the?
I pulled it up.
With the lines, like we're not seeing the lines come up anymore the way we used to. All these things are just, again, inconsistencies. And to be honest, the offside rule is the one. What's that?
No, I'm just thinking that now it's sort of a case of, fine, it's proved, like we're saying, there's no lines, we're not seeing it as fans. Like, where's okay, how close was it? Do you know what I mean? Let me see it.
Yeah. It's one of those. The offside rule is the one that I have the least issue with refereeing. It's more the decisions around fouls and penalties and so on that frustrates me. But this one yesterday, it looked so tight, but the review just seemed to come and go. It was like on-field decision. It was like an old school, like pre-VAR check. It was like flags up, go, and when you see the replay, it looked like their right back was in line with Saka, and he was slightly ahead of the players closest to him, but the one furthest away was the one that looked like he was playing him onside. But again, if the lines were there, it would be something we're not discussing, because we would have seen that, we would have moved on. But actually, it's like, again, it's the inconsistencies of how things are being officiated that we just don't know.
Yeah, I've just pulled up the picture. I thought it would be worth, just having a closer look at it. It seems like he is offside, but Diego Carlos, it's very, very tight. I think Saka's just edging forward a little bit. But I mean, overall, it's another really good second half from Arsenal, and this is why I guess it's really disappointing that we didn't get anything out of the game, because key opportunities are there for us, for Arsenal to exploit. David Raya makes a really good save from Digne as well. But again, we're unable to find the back of the net. And, Trossard finally comes on for Martinelli, which doesn't really change the game too much, I don't feel like.
It's the wrong sub, to be honest.
Yeah, give me your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, Martinelli, he looked like he was struggling throughout the game. He was getting into space, right? But he wasn't struggling that he wasn't good enough. I think he was struggling because he was being isolated. And I put out a tweet. What I wanted to happen was us to move, and we've done it a few times when we're chasing. We go to a back three and we put Trossard or Nketiah in, and they basically act as like a. If you put Nketiah in, he goes as the 9, and Jesus goes as the shadow striker. Or if you put Trossard in, you have Jesus as the striker and you have Trossard as the shadow striker because he's so good at it. We've seen him do it. He can go in between the lines, and he would have added that extra body for Martinelli. I think if we went to that back three and attacked like that, I think we would have had a lot more opportunities created just from pure overloading. Because I don't know about you guys, but I was very comfortable with our defending throughout the game. I was quite confident and comfortable with the way that we were defending, that we minimalised their chances, minimalised them. The first half, well, there were some moments, but in the second half, we really grew into the game, and we just couldn't. It was like we weren't able to unlock the door going forward. And I think Martinelli coming off really changed a lot of the dynamism and the speed that we had about it. Trossard is a good player. He's very tricky. He's quite tactical, but he's not as electric as a Martinelli. Martinelli, it doesn't matter if he's got two people. He will still try and take you both on. He'll try and get it past you. And even tried it a few times, but because he got isolated, didn't have that second man, he was forced to do those. Whereas I thought if we brought in Trossard on and maybe took out, like when we did it last time, I think we took off, was it Rice? No, we took off Erdegaard, I think it was. We took off one of the, it was Zinchenko, yeah, we took off Zinchenko and then we shifted the whole back line. And then we moved, Erdegaard just stayed further up as well in that middle. That I personally think that would have allowed us to create more opportunities and get a goal. But the second Trossard came on, it didn't add anything. We didn't look any different. If anything, we looked flatter. We looked like we were running out of ideas.
Adam, I felt like it was difficult for Arteta and Stevenberg to really do anything to bring any subs on because of the lack of players on the bench, but also the lack of impact as well. Obviously, Nelson came on very, very late on. I would have brought him on a lot earlier, I think. But Nketiah comes on in the 80th minute, and we really need to start having a conversation, Monty, about and Adam, about what when we enter certain moments in certain periods in the game, especially in that last 15 minutes, is it necessary that we bring on Nketiah? Is it necessary that we change things around when you can see it's working? We didn't have the best of second halves. I felt like during the middle of that second half anyway, it felt a little bit like things were beginning to simmer down. Villa were getting into a bit of a rhythm of making sure that they were tightening themselves up, 6, in one line, and Arsenal looking lost of ideas, but we were still able to, wriggle our way into spaces, deliver the ball into the box. So what are your thoughts on, making substitutions during certain periods of the game, especially that last 10 minutes where Nketiah comes on for Jesus, which I thought just, killed the game for us?
Yeah, I agree. I think Nketiah may as well have just kept sitting on the bench. He offered nothing when he came on. It's one of those, again, a bit like my opinion with referees being apathetic. I kind of feel that way towards Nketiah right now. He's someone that I really, really want to do well, and I see flashes in him, and I think you've got the physical strength, you've got the touch at times, you've got the odd finish in your locker, but the guy's nearly 25, and there comes a point where you think, is it minutes or is there a reason that he's not getting the minutes? And again, I think Nketiah would be a good striker at a mid-table club, but I struggle to see what he offers at times because, again, his work rate, people talk about, it's nowhere near what the other front three have with Martinelli, Saka and Jesus. So when his ball playing abilities aren't as high, his finishing supposed to be his best thing. But again, he scores so few goals for us that we've had players in the past like Nicholas Bentner, who was just a complete enigma of a player, but he still scored more goals than Nketiah did, and he got absolutely, the fans couldn't stand him. Giroud over the years, again, offered so much in a lot of areas, but his finishing was inconsistent. Nketiah doesn't offer any of the things that a lot of other players do in his build-up, off the ball, and so on. And I don't know what it is. He always looks tired when he comes on as well, and that's always a worry. He seems to, when he comes on, his running, he looks like he's played 70 minutes, and actually he's been on the field 5. So this is a guy who's been given the number 14 shirt, is on 100 grand a week, and he should be judged by that. So it is a worry. When I look at players his age, I just think he hasn't kicked on in the way that we expected him to. And again, he's someone that I really want to do well, and I do like. And it's like, I think he works. He's worked hard to get where he is, but I just feel that there's something missing. And I don't know if he just needs to get a move where he's playing more regularly or whatever it is. But I don't feel that the connections with other players are there, and I think that's the most worrying thing. There was a great Bielsa quote whenever he was on loan at Leeds, and he said, he was asked why he plays Bamford over Nketiah, and he said that Bamford runs for the team, Nketiah runs to score. And I saw it last week or something, and the more I think about it, the more I think that still applies today, that there's a lot of things Nketiah does well, but there's a lot of things where I look at, he doesn't link up well enough with other players on a consistent basis, because there's some games where he's actually really good at that. And I just don't know what's missing with him right now. But that substitution when he came on, it really killed the game. And it, with the exception of the Havertz chance. But at the same time, look, I think it's also important to remember one of the big moments with Nketiah is the Diego Carlos elbow. Like, genuinely, how?
Well, no, just for we need that to really annoyed me, that particular situation. No, we do, because let me just quickly just butt in. But that particular situation really annoyed me, because we're entering the final few minutes of that game. Does Nketiah really need to make a big deal out of it? If he gets sent off, he gets sent off. But with 2 or 3 minutes to go, do you really think it makes a big difference? You know, Villa will get 10 men behind the ball, close everything off. You know, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, just go, just play the game. You know, keep the tempo up.
Look, but he's running through and he gets elbowed at full smack off the ball. And the fact that, again, that's looked at, he's running through on goal, he gets elbowed. And again, if you've ever been elbowed on the face, like I got elbowed, I was running through one time, I got elbowed in the ribs, and I ended up with 3 broken ribs. And because an elbow, when you're running at full pace, is really, really painful. And it's one of those that he's elbowed square in the face by a big centre-back. And I think your point of whether he needs to make a big deal out of it, absolutely he does, because that's one of Villa's best defenders off the pitch. It should be a red card. And again, it's the consistencies. It comes back to, yes, there's only 3 minutes of the game. Will it make a big difference? I don't know. But at the same time, the laws of the game are you can't elbow someone in the face, and that's really aggressive play. That's the kind of thing that it's serious foul play, and that kind of thing can cause concussions. It can lead to head injuries. So it should have been a red card. And again, the fact that the ref saw it, booked him, and it wasn't reviewed by VAR properly, or if VAR had come to the decision, because we've just had the Bruno incident where they said it's a forearm, not an elbow. And that was part of the reasoning why he didn't get sent off. And then they also used the line, he didn't use his arm as a weapon against Havertz, or against Jorginho, which again is something that they've pulled out of thin air. But, I mean, Carlos elbows Nketiah yesterday. That's as much of using your arm as a weapon as I've ever seen. And it's also the elbow square on. That's a really painful one for Nketiah. And look, that's a red card if ever I've seen one.
Monty, do you tend to agree with the assessment on Nketiah?
Yeah, I think there's definitely loads of parts I agree with. I mean, I like Nketiah. You both know that. The one thing I was surprised at was bringing Jesus off and Nketiah. I really want to see Nketiah in a front 2. I really think that would genuinely unlock him, because he gets those like tricky balls. He can get the 50-50s, but when he's on his own, he finds it hard to create them. It doesn't make sense. But with Jesus, because his first touch is so good, I think next to Jesus, both of them could be really good, and we've seen it glimpses, and we were creating multiple opportunities at previous games. I mean, like towards the end of for this season, towards the end of last. I was surprised by it on his own coming on because it seemed like he didn't really. The midfield weren't doing the long balls to Jesus anyway, so like seeing Nketiah so high up, ready to do the runs in behind when they weren't even seeing him all game anyway, it kind of baffled me a little bit. I thought he was going to come on and maybe try a different approach, maybe try come to the ball a bit more, maybe try draw some centre backs out, but didn't really do that. So it was a bit of a bad game from Nketiah, or cameo, I should say, because he only got 10 minutes. Again, the elbow, yeah, I completely agree. It definitely needs to go down because, like, I would agree with Adam, it hurts, especially when it's that cold. Yeah, it hurts. And he's only been on for the pitch for like 4 or 5 minutes, so he's not like completely warmed up. He's not like in force. It will hurt. There should have been a red card in my opinion. And the worst thing is with the ref, he didn't even see it, but he just panics and does the yellow card. If you literally watch the still, he literally doesn't even see it, but yet panics and just does a yellow card. I think it was Dan Crutchlow, that put out a tweet and he was basically saying about Jared Gillett, and I agree with it. I don't think he is a Premier League quality referee, and I mean I get the Premier League refereeing is not a great standard. I don't feel like he was confident enough in his decisions. It seemed to be sort of guessing some stuff. He doesn't scream Premier League quality ref to me. He doesn't scream that to me, and he looked like he was getting exposed a little bit. Which was annoying. And then, it was a frustrating. I think Arteta, normally we talk about how well his subs work. Normally he comes on and he brings on substitutes and they work really well. And it'll be in case of, like, look at the City game. Every sub he brought on was involved in the goal. Like, normally he gets it right. I think he got it wrong yesterday. I think he got the substitutions and the timings wrong. Again, like Trossard coming on kind of made us flat. Why not put him as a shadow striker? Why not do that? And then if you have him as a shadow striker, then you can take Jesus off and replace him for Nketiah, because Trossard has that trickiness. He can unlock Nketiah. He can get him into space because he has that proactiveness about him. Whereas, like Adam said here, and I would agree, like with Nketiah, he does run a lot for himself. He does do off the ball pressures, and we've seen him chase down goalies all the time. But when it comes to tracking back, we hardly see that. We do hardly see that, and that's where we need that second player. I think that shadow striker maybe who does that, and to allow him to stay 1-on-1 with a centre back. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, I think Arteta is partly to blame for bringing off the wrong people and just the wrong timings, in my opinion.
Okay, finally, the last moment of the game where VAR disallows our goal due to a ball grazing Havertz's arm, which had, by the way, no bearing on where the ball was going to end up. Shocking decision, and, we've been talking about the rules and the letter of the law and how it needs to be followed to the T. Adam, you made that point, and, I strongly believe that it needs to be ruled in a more what's the word I'm looking for? This word I've been thinking about throughout the whole episode, but it's not come to my mind.
Consistent?
No, not necessarily consistent. It just needs to be officiated in a more
professional.
I can't think right now, but
anyway,
Adam, yeah, just try and break this down, because they were showing the replays back time after time after time to see, because I think the referee stops it because there's a moment where it comes off Cash and it hits Havertz's chest, and I think he feels like that's where the handball incident happens. He's not going to be able to see the actual offense.
No, if you look at the referees, if you look at where the referee was positioned, there's no way he can see the ball. It's him that gives the foul. And I think the bit that frustrates me most is it comes off Matty Cash's hand first, and that's what puts it on to Havertz. But again, you're talking half a yard between the two players, a yard at the most. There's no space. Havertz can't get his arm out of the way. And again, it comes down to, it's like unnatural position. He doesn't actually move his arm. So it's one of those, when it happened, it was just on VAR were reviewing it. Again, the apathy I've got towards refereeing, I just felt this flat feeling that I didn't have the anger, the whatever it is that I usually have, that I just thought this isn't going to be given. This just isn't our day. And it was so frustrating because, again, it felt like it was a game where we battled at the end. And it does kind of feed into what Jimmy Carragher said about our kind of need for some of these late winners. And look, the best teams always win late, but he did say a couple of weeks ago there will be games where when you're needing that late goal, it doesn't happen. And that is a case with what happened yesterday, where we've had a goal overruled. It's just really frustrating because that's very much the definition of ball to hand. And if we're going to be that pedantic about what's a handball and what's not, then it's a handball from Matty Cash and it should be an Arsenal penalty. And we had one earlier in the season where Mudryk heads the ball at Saliba's hand, again, a yard away, and we didn't complain much about it because we said, well, that's the rules of the game. We don't agree with the rules of the game, but the referee has actually applied the rules as they're written right now. We moved on from that, and then yesterday, it's gone against us, and we're at the point where we're saying, like, what are the rules of handball anymore? And when I say I don't know the rules of football anymore, it's like every time I watch a game, I'm like, I genuinely don't know if I should be angry at that, or it's like, I was talking to my mate yesterday, and he was like, football's a game for the working man. It's like, if you need to complicate things by this amount, you're going to lose fans. And it's getting to the point where things are being overanalyzed. They're just being dissected so much that, again, when you're having to view things 20 times, it's not clear and obvious. And I think the Havertz handball sums it up. But again, really frustrating because Havertz had such a good game again yesterday. He wasn't on the ball loads, but every time he was on the ball, it felt like he did something good. He had that great interception in the first half that led to a big chance for us. Then he battled right to the end, and he was the man that was in the box at the right time. And to have the goal ruled out for that is just really frustrating, but just one of those kind of, it feels like, what can you do if the officials are going to make those kind of decisions every week?
Yeah, Monty, what are your thoughts on the offside goal? No, not the offside goal, the disallowed goal, the handball.
Yeah, I just think it's a bit of a shambles, to be honest. I think I would agree with Adam completely. I think everyone was disappointed at it. It's the fact I just don't get how it can come off Matty Cash's hand first, yet we get punished for it. If anything, they should just cancel each other out. They're both at each other's hand. It doesn't, like you said, it didn't stop where the ball was going to end up. And yet the goalie, the ref on the on-field decision, he couldn't even see it. He couldn't even see it.
Yeah.
It's impossible that he could see it from his angle, and yet he's called it as a handball. Sorry, mate, you can't see it. You should be given a goal because you literally cannot see otherwise. Give the goal and let VAR decide. And then I bet you if it was given as a goal because of the clear and obvious error to go against it, it would have stayed as a goal. I bet if the on-field decision was a goal, it would have stayed as a goal. And that's what I mean. Jared Gillett just looked like he was out of his depth, like the Eddie Nketiah. Just give a yellow. He didn't even see it. His eye was literally looking. I think it was at Trossard on the left, and there I think Pau Torres was further up. I can't remember who it was. His eyes were over there. He didn't even see it, but yet gave a yellow card just because he probably panicked. Oh, it probably was actually a foul. Like, so yeah, it's just frustrated. It's just disappointing. Do you know what I mean? You expect better officiating from the best league in the world. Yeah, we've got probably one of the worst in the big five leagues. Genuinely, I think some of the best refereeing out there is in Germany or Spain. They tend to get it they're pretty good on it. So it's just a frustrated figure. And I guarantee that goal, that scenario won't happen again because it seems like it happens to Arsenal first, and then they rejig it and look at it, and then that issue won't happen again. I bet you.
Well, you'll be glad to know that I finally found the word that I was looking for to describe what the officiating needs to be, and that word is holistic. That's the approach that referees need to take when they're officiating a game. It can't be that when you look at a decision, when you look at an incident, and you base that incident you isolate that incident within the incident, because it has so much of a bearing on everything else. For example, that situation in the final few minutes where the ball grazes Havertz's arm. He's not put his arm there purposefully. It's in a natural position. It's by his side. He can't do anything about that situation where there's such close contact between him, Matty Cash, Martinez, and Watkins. I think it was Watkins as well. He can't get himself out of that situation. He's put himself there to try and score. Now, you could maybe make an argument if Havertz's arm is flailing. If it's even, in a 90 degrees angle, you could maybe make a case for the ball striking his arm. But there is no bearing on where the ball ends up. It doesn't affect the movement of the ball, other than the fact that gravity is pulling it down. So the referee should have stopped and thought, right, this particular situation, Havertz is not doing anything to affect where the ball is moving. He's in a close contact, close kind of range between three other players. He's clearly not doing anything to put himself in an advantageous position. So we should let the goal stand. But no, because the rules say if the same player handles the ball before converting it into the back of the net, it's deemed as a handball. And it's just so frustrating. So look, we have finally arrived at the end of the show, where it's now time for
Good, bad, ugly.
I didn't think we'd hear that sound effect for a very long time, but unfortunately, it's time for good, bad, ugly. So, Adam, can you please give us your good moment of the game?
I'm going to go after. I honestly don't know. It's a weird one because I think we played well as a whole, but individual moments were lacking. So probably the one where ball over the top from Gabriel and Martinelli gets in, does really well, should have scored, but the pass from Gabriel through to Martinelli was inch perfect. And so I'm going to go with that. But as I say, individual moments were lacking in that game.
Okay, Monty, do you want to give us your good moment of the game?
Good moment. Again, I would go with Adam. I don't think it was individuals. I think, can I go as a whole? As a good
Yes,
moment?
you can.
I think the midfield as a whole, we dominated that game compared to, say, like City, who got dominated. I think that was good. I liked what we saw there. I liked how Havertz was probably one of our best players on the pitch, and Ødegaard was able to get into space and unfortunately not convert, and Declan Rice putting out fires like he always does. So that would be my good moment.
Okay, Adam, do you want to give us your bad moment of the game?
Bad moment, I'm going to go for the goal being ruled out. Just because, again, I felt that it was us battling, continuing to work, Havertz getting himself, even the way it was scored was kind of summed up Havertz's whole performance, which was battling, it was determination, it was like trying to get the end result and no nonsense to get it into the back of the net. So it's the bad moment is obviously it being disallowed for no reason and the officiating costing us there.
Monty, what about you? Mine,
I'm going to go with Ødegaard's miss. The first one where he just should have gone across the keeper. It's what he always does, and he took too long as well. It took like 3 to 4 touches on the ball when he should have just been coming in and gone bang instead of just take it with your right foot, man. Like, just, do you know what I mean? So yeah, then my bad moment was just Martin Ødegaard. But normally he's great but he had a bad moment there. He should be putting that in the back of the net.
Mm. And finally, Adam, your ugly moment of the game.
Carlos's elbow on Nketiah. It's something that shouldn't happen in a game of football. It's unacceptable. It's serious foul play, and it's something that it's a throwback to old school football that we rarely see that kind of thing anymore. It's such an aggressive elbow, so that's very much the ugly stain on the game.
Okay, Monty, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the build up towards Aston Villa's goal. I think Adamsole hit it quite well. There should have maybe been a foul earlier. I think Zinni as well, getting dragged in by the winger and not understanding that once he gets to that middle third of the pitch, you need to let your man go and you need to track back into your part, because Rice is there, Saliba's there, Gabriel's there, like they're covered, and he stayed on his man too long. That allowed Bailey to get free. That allowed Bailey a free cross inside. Because Zinni was then late coming back, he then was no longer in the middle. So White then had to track back, which he did well, tracked him again, but then because he was tracking back so fast, he then was too slow to turn around. So I think that was all pretty much caused by Zinni. If he was just on his man, it would never have happened. So my ugly moment is just the build up to that play, because we should have been sharper. We should have either just understood the situation and made the foul, or just been better. Just been better, and it was too easy. It was too easy for them.
Yeah, one of the things I think we can all agree that Emi Martinez is an absolute bell end, but he did give a really good quote after the game. And he said, he was asked if Villa can win the title, and he said he believes. He said after beating City and Arsenal back to back, of course you have to believe. He said, but what the really interesting point, Monty's point there just reminded me of this. He said after dominating City and winning the game like they did, and then to suffer against Arsenal for 85 minutes and still come out with a result, it makes them believe they can do something, which I think that quote's really interesting because it sums up exactly what Monty's just said, that they dominated City, we dominated them, and they've still come out with the same result in both games. But it was one of those, I think it's important to take away the team performance here. And it was why I couldn't really pick good individual moments, because as a team, we were really good. We just lacked those. It's what Arteta always says. It's like being decisive in the boxes. We weren't decisive in the boxes. And if Odegaard took that chance first time, as Monty said, we're not having a lot of the conversations around refereeing, because we've killed the game. And I think overall that was a good display. And it's games like that kind of make me believe more we can do it, even though we lost, because we were so good yesterday as a team. But it's one of those, you pick yourself up.
I think if we scored as well,
right next week.
I think if I was going to say, I think if Odegaard scores that goal, I bet you we score 3 goals. I bet they would have just flown in. It was just getting that over the first goal, and then it would have been like, we know what we're doing now. And it would have been a completely different game, but it just didn't happen. But like you said, we're on to Brighton next.
Yeah, good to be feeling. I mean, it's good to know that in the 2 games that we've lost, we weren't dominated in either of those games. It was very much on our own undoing, which meant the opposition got the 3 points. But ultimately, we've lost 2 games, and interestingly enough, we are worse off than last season in terms of our points and goal difference. But so are our rivals as well. So it makes up for a very interesting second half of the season, with still a few more games to go. As you guys said, moving on to Brighton now, and hopefully we can bounce back to winning ways. I am going to leave it there. I do want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's listened up until this point. Thank you very, very much. If you did enjoy this episode, please do give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Let us know what you thought of the show by reaching out to us on Twitter. You can find us over there at Arsenal Therapy. You can find Adam over there at AdamKeys_ and Monty over there at ATP Monty. And you can find myself over there at Gunner Since 96. As always, we will be back in a few days' time to give you your usual weekly dose of Arsenal therapy. But if you can't wait until then, make sure to head over to the Arsenal Therapy YouTube channel for the 15-minute show and the preview show. So make sure you check all of that out. Until then, take care, have yourselves a lovely week, and we'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.